Graham Cassidy was not repeal. It was sort of fake repeal put forward, but it wasn't repeal. I've been putting forward an alternative that I think is going to be acted on in the next couple of weeks. Graham Cassidy probably will never be acted on, but I can tell you that the White House is excited about my alternative, and my alternative is to let individuals buy across state lines through health associations, and we believe the president can do this and will do this through basically a regulatory change or a reinterpretation of a law from the 1970s. So this is good news. We think millions of people are now going to be allowed to get insurance across state lines, inexpensive insurance, insurance that covers what they want it to cover, and this is going to be a huge step forward for the health insurance problems that we have in our country.
Okay, you say it's a first step. Obviously, there are still things to be addressed, taxes, mandates, those kinds of things. So where do you go next? Even if you give consumers the power to buy across state lines, what about those lingering issues?
Well, I think this is a big first step. We're talking about millions of people buying across state lines and also millions of people having access to inexpensive insurance. The big part of the problem in healthcare has been in the individual market. If you're a plumber or a carpenter, an accountant, pest control, some kind of small business, these are the people who worry about their spouse getting sick and losing their insurance or their rates going up. I'm going to let every one of them, about 11 million people, buy across state lines and join associations. The president and I have been working on this. This is a real free market alternative to Graham Cassidy. Graham Cassidy was just a big government reshuffling of Obamacare, but it kept the Obamacare taxes and spending in place. My plan costs $0 and is basically legalizing something. It's giving people the freedom of choice, but it could go a long way towards fixing the problems we have. Then maybe we don't have to go back to a big government solution like Graham Cassidy.
But if it leaves some of those other things in place that we talked about, the taxes, the mandates, the regulations, the requirements for employers, would you support further legislation that would scale back those kinds of things? And if this doesn't get done miraculously by Saturday with 51 votes, are you going to get any Democrats to weigh in with you on that?
There's probably been no more vocal opponent in Washington than myself against Obamacare. I have called repeatedly and voted repeatedly for real repeal. So what I would say is yes, I'm ready to vote now. There were parts of Graham Cassidy that were repeal. Repeal of the individual mandate, employer mandate, let's vote on it now. Expansion of HSAs, health savings accounts, let's vote on that now. Giving governors waivers, let's vote on that now. The main thing I opposed in Graham Cassidy was that they kept the Obamacare spending and just reshuffled it from Democrat states to Republican states. That was not an answer, and it's sort of petty partisanship, and it was big government, and it was fake repeal. But yes, there are parts that we could vote on, and I've met with people, the White House and the Senate leadership, and said, I'm ready to vote today if they'll put forward something that is simply a repeal bill.
And you know that's never going to happen, at least not in the current framework. I mean, as much as you are a critic of the Affordable Care Act, of Obamacare, whatever folks want to call it, for you, is it about if you can't get a vote for a full repeal that you're not going to vote for anything short of that, or is there some wiggle room in there?
Well, that's actually not really true. I've already voted for several partial repeals, and I will vote for partial repeal. I promised full repeal, and that's what I'm for, and that's what the voters were promised. And you want to know why they're unhappy in Alabama? Not because we didn't just do something, but because we didn't do what we promised, which was real full repeal. But will I vote for partial repeal? Yeah, I already have. And so I want real repeal. I'm just not voting to replace Obamacare with a Republican version of a big government redistribution that keeps all the Obamacare taxes and spending in place. That's fake repeal, and I'm not going to vote for that.
Okay, a tweet from the president. He says, we will have the votes for health care, but not for the reconciliation deadline of Friday, after which we need 60. Get rid of filibuster rule. Leadership on both sides of the aisle says no way, they're not going to do it. It's a tool for the minority, which the Republicans at some point will once again be in the minority. It's the only tool the Republicans would have in that space. The Democrats as minority have to resist the tyranny of the majority. Where are you on filibuster?
Right. You know, I think the filibuster serves liberty in the sense that it doesn't allow legislation to move forward too quickly. Over our 250-year history, really, the Constitution was about preserving liberty, so it made the process and the wheels of Congress move slowly, purposefully to preserve liberty. All legislation doesn't lead to liberty, so all legislation is not something we want to happen. So I'm still for the filibuster. But the filibuster didn't stop health care. What stopped health care was simply this: Republicans who promised to vote for real repeal no longer are for real repeal. That's a question they need to take up with their voters at home.
Yeah, and many of them will have to do that facing the voters in 2018. Senator and physician Rand Paul, always good to see you.
We will make America great again.